Coming to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, this is the Spit Sports Show. What a fascinating hockey game we were treated to on a random Sunday night in Vancouver. The Canucks played the Red Wings, who were just flaming hot coming into that game. They were 7-2-1 in their last 10. They just took over the first wild card spot. The Red Wings are looking like they are one of the future top teams in the NHL with their young core. And on the Canucks end of the spectrum, starting Hedel for the first time, Marcus Pettersson gets his first game, O'Connor, D. the other Elias Pettersson in his third game. And even before this game started, there was a fascinating storyline about Hughes, and he did try to warm up. He wanted to thug it out, according to Rick Tocchet, but he said it just wouldn't have been too smart, which, as a fan, I couldn't agree more. We need that guy more than any team needs any player. That's a discussion for another time, but he's definitely up there. Now, there's three main points that I want to hit on with this game. So, number one, I want to talk about the new additions because all of them were fantastic in their own roles. Second, I want to talk about the first line and what the heck is going on there. And then three, I'm going to give my overall thoughts on what I think this all means moving forward. So, before this game, Tocchet, or after, I can't quite remember, but he told the media, Rick Tocchet did, he didn't really coach up the new guys a whole lot when they first came into Vancouver. He just kind of told them, go out and play hockey. And it's so interesting because a lot of the criticism from Canucks fans, not so much the media, but the general public, has been on Rick Tocchet for hammering into this team a very boring dump and chase style of hockey that clearly is not producing high quality offense. And it's interesting that as soon as we bring in new guys who haven't been coached by that system, they come in and play free and loose. And that's especially what Hedel was able to do yesterday. He looked like a legit top six center last night, without a doubt. He might have looked like a top line center last night. Obviously, I have no expectations for him to keep up this level because his adjusted game score was right around a 1.9. And if you don't know what game score is, just as a little base metric, minus 1.5, that's like a really, really bad game. Think Tyler Myers sends the puck down the middle and the other team picks it off like 4 times. Bad game. Like if you have a positive 3, that's like a once a month kind of performance. That's a Matthews 4 goals game. That's a McDavid 5 points. That's like top of the top tier performances. So minus 1.5, really, really bad. 3, really, really good. His game score was at a 1.9, which is incredibly impressive, especially in someone's first game. And the confidence that he was able to play with, I thought was so impressive. Again, especially with the Canucks' very rugged, conservative culture, he did not look afraid at all out there. He looked like he had a new spark underneath him. And his line with Garland and Joshua, I don't know if that's what they're going to run moving forward, but that line was by far the most productive Canucks line yesterday by expected goals for, and it wasn't even close really. They had 0.4 more than the next closest line, and if you know anything about expected goals for, that's a lot. So I'm very excited to see how he blossoms. Again, I don't expect him to be on a line with Garland and Joshua forever. I kind of think Garland and Joshua should be put with Pettersson for a little bit. But that's a whole other discussion as well. Like, I'm so glad I have a sports podcast. I can just keep talking about this stuff. But for now, I want to stick to this game. And speaking of new additions, Marcus Pettersson. What a revelation to see a tall Canuck defenseman who is actually cool, calm, and collected with the puck on his stick. His individual numbers on defense were fantastic. Every single time he had the puck and he had some time and space, I felt he was going to make a good decision. Even when he didn't have time and space in the corners, he just looked so in control and just knows where to go with the puck to where he won't create a high danger chance for the other team. That's what I saw anyways. He's not going to produce any highlights. This is not a Quinn Hughes replacement or even a Quinn Hughes comparable guy. This is a legit top four defenseman, though, who can hold down the blue line, move the puck legitimately, and play great defense. So that I think that's awesome. It's the pickup that Canucks fans hoped would be paired with JT Miller and make a playoff run like that, but clearly it didn't work out that way. However, I think him, Hronek, DPD Hughes, those are probably the top four for the next like 3 years. I know there's three lefties in there. Sorry, one of you's got to play offhand because those four guys are looking unbelievable. And speaking of like DPD, Elias Pettersson too, whatever nickname, I don't know. He's was unbelievable last night. Flatly unbelievable. I have never seen a guy in his third game who is not like a number one overall pick, generational prospect type, play so free and confidently and just skate his heart out and just look so cool, calm, and collected under pressure. It was the best game of his career by a mile. Granted, it was only his third game in the league, but he led the Canucks this game in overall game score pretty convincingly with a score of just over a 2.6. Now, the difference between a 2.6 and a 3 is actually drastic, but a 2.6 is still an unbelievable game score. And his adjusted game score was actually a little bit better than that, I think. And he's been a positive game score guy in every single game he's played. Now, him and Marcus Pettersson are very similar players, I think. I think they play very similar styles, but that's not a bad thing at all because you want one of these type of guys on pretty much every D line in the NHL, ideally. A guy who's smart, a guy who doesn't create high danger chances for the opponent, a guy who's good with his stick, plays good individual defense, and can move the puck. So it looks like the Canucks have two of those guys going forward with the two Petterssons on defense to pair with Hughes and Hronek, who are obviously really good puck movers. That's really cool. That's really cool, especially considering how down I was on the defense not even 3 weeks ago. So that's super exciting. O'Connor, just to finish off this new additions point, he played like most depth players play in their first game with a new team. He just had a rocket in his butt. He was forechecking probably the hardest of any Canuck. I thought he helped Pius Suter have the best period of his life in the first, where he scored and had another couple of chances. Ian O'Connor had a very, very good game. And I'm excited to see what he can do on that fourth line. And I think him, Suter, and Sherwood could be like the ultimate playoff depth line. I think back to 2018 where the Caps had Devontae Smith-Pelly, Jakub Vrana, and I think Lars Eller on the same line, and they just scored clutch goal after clutch goal. But the issue with that is this team might not even be in the playoffs. They are right on the edge of it with the Calgary Flames. And at this point in the season, every point matters. And the top line for the Vancouver Canucks is struggling to produce points. I thought Elias Pettersson, the OG, the supposed best Elias Pettersson, was flatly invisible tonight. Game score backs this up. My eye test, I actually thought he played worse than his game score. For the whole game, he was just slightly under 0. Adjusted game score was even worse than that. Now, it was reported last year that Pettersson was dealing with knee issues from January of last year till the end of the playoff run. And they thought it was tendonitis. He wouldn't need a procedure. He didn't have a procedure this offseason. He thought just some rest. The medical team just thought some rest, get the knee better. He should be good to go for next season. But the thing is about tendonitis, it's different with everybody and it affects everyone differently. Like, I don't know how many of you hockey fans watch football, but Todd Gurley was maybe the best running back in the world, certainly top two. And he got tendonitis like right before the Super Bowl. It all but held him out of the Super Bowl and he was never the same again. Some people, it just goes away and they're fine for the rest of their careers. But it seems like it's affected Pettersson more towards the Todd Gurley side than the positive side because he has not looked the same since right around that area. Like, flatly to my eye, he looks slow and behind the play for the majority of the game. And he's never been the best forechecker. He's never been a guy who you want in the corners. Obviously, he's a skinny dude. He relies on movement, shiftiness, and skill. And if you've got tendonitis in that knee, you can't plant and cut the way you want to on the ice. Like, that can definitely affect your play long term. And it just hurts, obviously, from a management perspective, that they found out the effects on this towards Pedersen after they gave him $11.6 million. So this could be a problem moving forward. I really am on knee watch here. Like, he has not been the same. And I pointed this out a couple times, but last night he was awful. Now, he is not the only issue with this so-called first line. Jake DeBrusk has just he's kind of gotten a pass this year because so much of the Canucks criticism and eyes have been on management, Miller, Pedersen. I get that, and that's where the story is. But he hasn't been bad this year. I'm not saying at all that he deserves to, have swords rained upon him. He's got 31 points in 52 games, which is actually above his normal pace for around this point of the season. For 5.5, you'd probably want a bit more production, but oh well, you get what you paid for. I didn't love the signing at the time, but he was really, really, really bad last night. Like, worse than Pedersen bad. I didn't quite notice how invisible he was compared to Pedersen because I'm just looking out for Pedersen more probably when he's on the ice, but he was a minus 2.5 in the game score category. His overall game score finished only better than Derek Forbert's on the entire Canucks lineup. Now, that's not good. And these last couple games, he hasn't been good. I don't think he's exactly found the perfect line for him. And I think he's playing timid after, getting that talk it system stuck in his head a little bit more. Besser was by far the best out of the three amigos, or the three amigos from last night. He had a couple high quality chances, including he had the puck on the wing on a 3-on-1. He decided to shoot it, which I was fine with. He had plenty of room over the blocker, but you just got to put that in. He had another couple chances, one in overtime, I think, and just couldn't capitalize. So that scares me because, listen, I know that the Canucks have Quinn Hughes and they have so much offense generated from the fact that he's going to play 27, 28 minutes a game and create a ton of offense and probably be a point per game. But I am flatly concerned now that the Canucks' high-end forward core just isn't going to be enough to compete with these other high-end teams to make a deep playoff run. Like, I look at their roster now and their current lines of DeBrusk, Pedersen, Besser as your first line. Flatly on paper, that should be a pretty, average to above average first line. It hasn't been that. Joshua, Hedel, Garland as your second line. You probably want that to be your third line, ideally. I called him Ian O'Connor earlier. I'm so sorry. Drew O'Connor, Pius Suter, and Kiefer Sherwood on the third line. Again, you probably want that to be your fourth line. And then Hoglander, Bluger, Linus Carlson, you probably want that to be an AHL line. So my point is, it seems like they're missing a whole line in the depth chart. And if everyone moved down a rung, then you'd probably be good to go. But unfortunately, you can't just add a great second line out of the blue in the NHL. You just traded the key to your second line or maybe even your first line. So this scares me. I'm worried that this could be a sign of what's to come. And that brings me to my overall thoughts. Like, the Red Wings this game, they were on the second night of a back-to-back where they played Calgary the night before. They had played 3 games in 4 days, and they really looked like they were coming off a back-to-back. Like, first period, I thought was pretty even. But second, third, the Canucks flatly dominated the game. The Red Wings looked tired. They looked lethargic. That game was on a silver platter for the Canucks to take 2 points home. Now, they got one out of it because it's impossible for them to win outside of regulation. I get it. But the Red Wings did not play a good game, and the Canucks still couldn't quite find enough offense to finish off a good team. But again, this isn't a top tier contender right now, at least not at this point. So there are a lot of good signs from this game. The new additions, again, looked really good. But as an overall look at the roster, I didn't love what I saw because the forward talent, there's clearly a bit of a hole there now, especially compared to the other top tier teams. And moving forward, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, what are you going to do to reset and make sure that your entire team can be good enough to where Quinn Hughes wants to stay and you have a future with him as the centerpiece? So we'll see how that goes. Please let me know what you guys thought in the comments below, whether it's negative, positive, middling, I don't care. Let me know what you thought. I obviously love talking about sports, and I'm small enough as to where I can respond to all comments. So please leave some in the comments below. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed what you heard. Please subscribe if you really enjoyed what you heard. Spit Sports Show just hit over 400 subscribers. Thank you all so much for that. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace. Love you guys.